With all of the talk recently about Fortnite's storyline, and especially the way that Dr. Doom's storyline ended, a lot of people have been worried about the state of the Fortnite storyline. A lot of people have been really missing what Donald Mustard brought to the game, and today I wanted to ask you guys a question and just touch on it for a few minutes. Don't know how long the video will be, but I wanted to ask, would it be a good idea for Charlie Wen to continue on with Donald Mustard's story? Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. So if you are new here, I think I just said that, but I wanted to actually just go through really quick about how I felt about both storylines. Donald Mustard's story, I have been incredibly invested in since the beginning of Chapter 1. I was literally there when it initially started. I was interested in it once we first saw that shooting star, comet in the sky, whatever it ended up being. I was literally there from the get-go, from the very beginning of when the Battle Royale storyline started, and I have been completely invested the entire time, all the way up to even Chapter 4, if we want to talk about things like the Shapeless Man. Charlie Wen's story. I was worried about it from the beginning. It had some interest. As time has gone on throughout the entirety of Chapter 5, I have found myself more invested in it, but while I do enjoy it, while I do like Hope's story, while I do like the character building of it, I like that kind of... I have mixed thoughts on losing the 0 point and kind of making it more focused on Pandora's box. I have mixed feelings on that, like I just said, but ultimately, I am not enjoying it as much. My point being that while, again, I did enjoy Charlie Wen's story, I did not like it, and I was not as invested as I was with Donald Mustard's story. To bring that like a little bit more back home, though, to be a little bit more fair to Charlie Wen, of course, Donald Mustard ended up having years upon years to build his storyline. How long was it? Like, was it 6 years? Was it about the storyline? Regardless, Donald Mustard had more time. So I think it's only fair that we give that time to Charlie Wen to build up his story, because now Hope, like, we've had 1 year, and now Hope seems to be a really cool, awesome character. I still want to make a video on how the way that Dr. Doom, that storyline ended, because I was so invested in it. That was the best that the storyline was throughout Chapter 5. I don't like how that concluded. And I think it's fair to assume that we're not going to get some sort of storyline conclusion through the concert that's supposed to be the live event at the Chapter 2 remix finale. I know that they're probably going to continue it with Chapter 6, but that's honestly a conversation for another time. People have been wondering whether or not, and I've seen, like, obviously it's not like a huge topic or anything. It was enough where I wanted to see it made a video, because I dive into a lot of different Fortnite storyline content, just seeing the feeds in general, and a lot of people are saying, like, okay, why couldn't Donald Mustard just hand over the torch? I've made this comparison before, but I think it's important to note again if we're talking about this topic. I was always surprised that Charlie Wen started with his initial story and didn't conclude Donald Mustard's story, because if you guys have been a fan of Game of Thrones, what happened was the writer wasn't done all of his books for Game of Thrones, the show, but the TV show needed to produce more seasons. So what the writer did for the producers of Game of Thrones was he kind of had an outline. Okay, this is going to happen to this character. This is how this season's going to conclude. This is how some things are going to take place in order for this type of thing to happen. And they had kind of a general guideline to go where the writer wanted to conclude things. I was always a little bit surprised that Donald Mustard didn't do that for Charlie Wen, where it's like, okay, this is what we want from Geno. This is how the story's going to conclude with Agent Jones. The Shapeless Man's going to do blank, all of that type of stuff. And now that time has gone on and we've seen a year of Charlie Wen's story building, and again, I don't mean to crap on it one little bit. I've been invested in it. I just didn't like the conclusion. And that might not even be Charlie Wen's fault. That might be, or more likely is, Epic Games' fault. Charlie Wen's story just might continue on. Maybe they didn't have the rights to use Dr. Doom, and they were like, okay, hey, you have to include Dr. Doom in your story for this month, okay? That might be what happened. Charlie Wen has a lot of history of great storytelling and character building, all that type of stuff, right? So, a lot of people, because they're not as invested in Hope's storyline, have been really missing Donald Mustard's story. I've seen a couple conversations online, or more than a couple, I've seen people talking about it all over the place, where, okay, why not just continue on with Donald Mustard's story? Where is the 7? What happened with the Chrome? Where is the last reality? After seeing Charlie Wen's storytelling, I don't think that he could tell the story like Donald Mustard did. Of course, like, obviously, they're completely different writers, and you can't expect Charlie Wen to be able to replicate the magic that Donald Mustard created. I think it's not fair to really it's fair and it's not, because Charlie Wen's taking over and he's doing his best. It's evident that he's doing his best, right? And his story's good. Is it really fair to compare him to Donald Mustard? I guess it's fair to compare it because they're both telling Fortnite storylines. It's fair to compare, but is it fair to expect the same from Charlie Wen? I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Timestamp this. I would appreciate it if I heard your thoughts on this. Maybe we can make this on a comments of the week video, as I need to catch up on that, by the way. But regardless, I don't want to see Donald Mustard's story continued on by Charlie Wen. Personally, what I always thought would be really cool, to be honest with you, is the opportunity that we had right now, which doesn't look like is going to happen. And this is what I was always so excited for, that we had Chapter 2 OG, right? We could have the storyline however we get here. It doesn't matter how we get here, over into Season 2. And what happens, I don't know, maybe R. Jones dies, Vengeance Jones dies, and then we start off from the device event when Jones kind of we first really get introduced to John Jones into the bigger, grander Fortnite storyline. I think it'd be super cool to go back in time, take that John Jones, and continue the storyline with him. So it would be the same characters that we know. It would be the same type of world building, but it would be another multiverse that the Big Bang introduced. We could have these same characters and their same personalities, but the story could go in a completely different direction with the 7, with the last reality. I think that would be the best way to do things. But of course, it doesn't look like we're getting that. It appears that we're not getting the last reality, the Shapeless Man, all of that type of stuff that was so interesting from Donald Mustard's perspective. And I think it's important that we give Charlie a chance, because all of those things could be reintroduced. But it looks to me that Charlie's just creating his own story, and Donald's story has unfortunately concluded. I don't know if you just want to chalk it up to we're not following it anymore because of the Big Bang. Now there's all of these different universes, and within the Omniverse you could get away with it in that. We still haven't seen the 0 Point, although we really thought the 0 Point was going to come back, and we really thought the storyline was going to get continued. And again, it very well could continue. But my point being, I don't think I want Charlie Wen to continue with the story that Donald, is it better than getting the nothing? That's the issue. I'm having a little bit of trouble talking about this. If we are to continue Donald Mustard's story, I'd want Donald Mustard to do it. I'm selfishly hoping that one of Donald Mustard's projects in the future just concludes a story, whether it's from a comic, whether it's an actual book that he writes, whether it's a TV series, whether it's something that he ends up working on with the Russo brothers. I would one day love to see that storyline concluded in whatever way that they want to do it. To be honest with you, I would even be satisfied if one day, like, we saw some sort of podcast with Donald Mustard, and hey, if we get the channel big, I would love to have that one day where Donald Mustard is actually able to share, like, well, this is what I was going to do with Geno. This is what was going to happen with John Jones. It wouldn't necessarily be a story to be told, but I would like to see where these types of things would have gone. And I wish more so than anything that Epic Games would actually be honest with us about, like, okay, Charlie's going to get to it. Charlie's going to introduce the last reality. We're just in the beginning stages of his story right now. I wish that we could have confirmation from Epic Games how invested they are in the storyline and what exactly their plan is regarding the story that we all followed for so long. That is something that I think Epic Games, I have a hard time using this word, but owes to the player base. It would be very nice and respectable if Epic Games would do that. If I was in charge of Epic Games, this is something that I would do for the community. This is something I would do for the storyline community, because even if that story has just been completely abandoned, at least we know, and then we could just follow Charlie Wen's story for what it is, instead of thinking about, okay, well, the last reality is going to come back one day. Where are they? What are they doing? Because we have all of these puzzle pieces within the story right now that haven't gone anywhere, and we're stuck wondering whether or not that's going to happen. I wish that Epic Games would do this. Either that, or we have some answers in Chapter 6. Regardless, I don't personally believe that Charlie Wen should continue Donald Mustard's story. It was too special. It was Donald's amazing way of telling the story that I don't think can be replicated. I would like it if I would just follow Charlie Wen and his new story. I like that we have Vengeance Jones here. I like that it's in a different section of the Omniverse. I would prefer to follow this as opposed to the story told by another person. I don't know if there's any media that we can point to, but I don't imagine that it would typically go pretty well for some writer to continue somebody else's story. Everybody needs their own thing. Everybody has their own way they storytell. Everybody has their own twist on things. For me personally, and I know that it's difficult for a lot of people in the storyline community who are very upset with Epic Games for the way they're treating the story, no matter what, I enjoy following the story of Battle Royale. I'm going to give Charlie Wen, because again, it's not Charlie's fault that he's been brought in to continue the story that so many people love. I'm going to follow his story. I'm going to appreciate his story. I just don't know whether or not how much I'm going to personally invest in it because of the way that things with Dr. Doom included, but I'm willing to continue to give it a chance until maybe Chapter 6, Season 2. If things don't pick up by then I'll actually give up on the storyline. I'll be like, okay, Epic Games, you need to show me something until, like, to make me more invested in the storyline again. I need to know we're going to have conclusions, all of that type of stuff. I'm going to follow Charlie Wen's story because I love this game. I love Fortnite. I'm going to be playing Battle Royale anyways, and I enjoy looking at a storyline. I enjoy following a storyline. Does it suck that we don't have Donald Mustard's story? Yeah, 100% it does, but what can we do about it? It's always best to look on the positive side of things, and that is absolutely what I'm going to be doing personally. Let me know what you think about all this down below. Thank you so much for being here and watching, guys. If you're interested in hearing about my recent take on the supposed storyline, you can check out our reaction video to the Remix Live event. I would love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody.